Welcome to Season 7 of A Little Birdie Told Me with Rollercoaster.ie. I'm your host, Rebecca Horan, and on episode 11, I'm chatting to fitness coach Adrienne Murphy. Sponsored by Optimal Follow On. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research. Optimal Follow On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow On milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. And if you like this episode, it would be a great help if you could like it, share it, and subscribe to the podcast. On this episode, I have the very delightful Adrienne Murphy, personal trainer, wellness coach, mum of one, soon to be mum of two, businesswoman, entrepreneur, and then we're kind of not going to do the whole wife too, but John Belton was on the podcast. He was on
He'll love that shout out.
He'll love it. He was on the last season, season 6. John Belton, and you are married as well. So welcome, Adrienne.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You say you don't do this.
No, and you're popping my podcast cherry.
Yes.
A little nervous, but it's okay because I feel like we know each other. There's a little bit of a backstory, so I feel like we're just going to have the chats and it's all good.
You do put a lot of content out and you are filming a lot and you're in videos and all of your gorgeous
Yeah, I'd say I like to do a quarterly post.
Fine.
And then I'm not so...
But talking stuff you don't do as much of.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pop the odd picture up here and there. I know that it's so valuable and I see it's how needed it is for work and for a business. And then there's times that I go through life and I just want to be present and just like flow through in my little bubble with my girl and my husband and not focus as much on it.
And then I think you saying there the importance, I think only the importance of having this chat with you and getting you on is that people get to know you a bit better outside the brands and the fitness and the family stuff. And even John, it's like, this is Adrienne and this is her story. And I think there's even more relatability to that. That's sometimes why.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I really appreciate it.
I think you're awesome. I knew that you worked, I know we've big connections friendship wise, but I didn't know you, but I know that you worked in corporate-y kind of world of marketing and advertising.
Yeah, so I worked in, trying to think what stage I started. I was probably in my mid-20s. Before that, dare I say, I did little dabble in the old Irish modelling scene. And it was it was a brilliant time. When I look back, I actually look at it as such a fond memory because I was thrown into a different world, very sometimes questionable jobs, sometimes wearing questionable items of clothing.
Who were your contemporaries? What girls would we have known? Were you at the time of Roz? Were you younger?
Yeah, I would have been. I wouldn't have done a lot of press work, so I did more, I suppose, fashion shows, the usual exposés, Ireland AMs.
Okay.
It kind of feels when I talk about it, I'm like, that was a different me, a different lifetime. But I also think it actually, when I look back now, I'm like, God, that actually really stood to me because it gave me thick skin. I met so many people from so many different industries. And now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I did that. But I did reach a point, I'd say around 24, 25, where I was looking for security, reliability, knowing what my Monday to Friday looked like. And that's when I took the plunge. I had studied advertising and marketing and I went into that world, that corporate world. I worked there, how long did I stay? I was probably in it for about 4 or 5 years. And I just remember getting caught up in that. I don't know, I felt I was working in more of like a negative headspace. I wasn't necessarily working on projects that I was really passionate about. I was working amongst lovely individuals, but I found that I was living for Friday.
Yes.
Devastated when Monday would come. And I just thought, oh my God, how have I got caught up in
You were in the
cycle?
wheel.
I really was. And there was a time in my life where I definitely was on that corporate ladder and I was chasing like big goals and certain salaries. And then I think that's when I started to find my love again with fitness. I went into number 17 personal training, the gym that my husband owns. My friend Daniela actually pulled me in, who was on. Yes.
So Daniela was on the podcast, and I kind of loved that she also wasn't disparaging about modelling. I loved that she said there's a time and a place.
Yeah, you're dead right.
What opportunities and experiences it gave me. I got to travel the world. I have nothing bad. Like, she's like, it's so funny. It's so easy to go, ugh, it's not me now.
Yeah.
Like,
and look,
it's so
there were things that I'm
embarrassing.
sure we both did that I was like, God, that was cheesy as hell, or I'm mortified of a photo.
She's very grateful for that.
Yeah.
And even the learning on herself.
That's how I met Daniela, who's one of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I remember I would have been going through a tricky time in life, not happy with my work situation. I would come out of bad relationship, and Daniela, and I think I would have always been very much into fitness when I was younger. Like I ran a lot, I played hockey, very, very sporty. She said, you have to come into this gym, number 17 personal training, you will love it.
So she was attending the gym?
She was attending the gym. So I went in, I started going in, I was training with Kev, John's brother, and Mark, and I trained on a Tuesday and Thursday, and it was perfect. On Marriott Square, my job was around the corner, 2-minute walk. I then also moved into an apartment that was on Marriott Square. Couldn't have been more convenient.
Perfect.
But I started training there, and I really kind of revitalized, I suppose, my love for fitness, wellness, started focusing more on myself, my own personal growth. And I started having conversations with John and also Daniela, and I had that realization that this is actually an area that I would love to work in and work with people. I think that is one of my areas of strengths, like building relationships with people. And I eased myself in, so I started studying in the evenings to get my qualifications. I would take clients in the morning before work. I would probably run in the door a little bit late to the office to have a quick change into the corporate clothing. Then I would take clients in the evening because I suppose I'm quite a practical person. I didn't want to leave.
Okay.
Not have the salary that I was having. So I built up my client base. I had really incredible clients until I could kind of match close enough to what I was earning. And then I made the plunge where I left that corporate job.
So you are, like we were talking earlier about, John is less, you know, he's much riskier in his dealings, and you'd be a little bit more risk adverse, and we need a bit of that yin yang. Like I'm probably a little bit more impulsive like John.
Yes.
And so far, like I'm 41, has stood
I
to me.
weigh things
but
up,
you weigh
and I'm
things up.
definitely more
balanced.
logical and practical about things. So
but you were also working very hard, and you realised you could make the leap.
I remember sitting in Portugal with John, funnily enough. Then at this point, we had then started dating. Which was also an area that I was thinking, oh, how's this going to be? Like, am I going to go in? Like, I've had a lot of independence in my life. I want to hold on to that independence. Am I now going to go in and start working for him? Yeah. Is my boyfriend going to be my boss? That did not sit well with me, and I didn't like it. So how we actually managed this, we also managed the Marker Hotel, the fitness there. So I decided to kind of take ownership over that. So we actually worked in different premises. I had my clients down there. He had his space number 17. We had a bit of separation, which I think was healthy.
So you were unhappy in a job, you start training, you realise it's a passion, you want to start working in there.
Yes.
When do you start falling in love? And how was the dynamic with the rest of the gym, people who we know were literally all John's family? Like what was the feeling?
So it's funny, I have such fond memories of that time. I remember going in because I would go in really early before work. I'd start training. As I said, I would take clients. This is probably before I took clients. But I remember feeling they were like this family. Like when I look at John's younger brother, Liam, like I probably met him when he was 18.
They're the nicest people. I would have met them when they were babies.
They were like the best family in the world.
All of them were babies then, but they're just the most decent people.
Yeah, I feel very, very lucky with
my you lucked out.
Extended family. So I remember like Liam slags me. Like I remember driving in and shouting out the window like, get me a latte. And like I would go in and have like my morning coffee with them, train.
Like a hug in a cup.
Exactly, yeah. So it was a really nice dynamic there. When did we start falling in love? I would say it was actually a slow burner. We started spending a lot of time together, and we started to gravitate towards each other.
It's the gravitating, isn't it? It's when you know you really only want to be with that person that you're going, do we fancy each other or are we friends?
I remember we went on this is a funny thing. So John, we started hanging out a little bit more, and it really did just feel like friends. He, as I said, he's very spontaneous, loves adventure, so do I, but he couldn't wrap his head around at the time. How was I 27 years old? I'd never been on a ski holiday. Very impulsive, booked a ski holiday. And I think he then panicked and realised, oh crap, I've just booked a holiday for me and Ado, and we're supposed to be going away when we don't actually have something going on. We've never like, are we friends? Is there something more? Went into the gym. A few days later, he had invited, I'd say, about 10 other people because the panic obviously
standard lads. Like he's like, bring everyone.
Yes. And
how did you feel about that?
Great. We had an absolute ball.
So you were comfortable.
It was probably I think I was with like 8 or 9 lads, and we just had the absolute crack. After that holiday, that's when I would say things started to become more, I was aware. I was like, okay, there's definitely...
Did you kiss on the holiday?
No. But like we were like
flirty.
Close. Yes. And then...
He probably knew you got on with everyone, you got stuck in, you're fit. He probably knew after that holiday it was kind of one of those, you know, those moments where people are like, this is it.
Yeah. Potentially. I think it was when we got home then it was the case of, okay, think he sent me, this podcast is just going to be very cheesy
No,
and
I love
all.
this. We love a love
delving into
story.
romance.
Excuse me,
I
bring it on.
apologise.
All I ever have is we got separated. We hate each other. This is so special. Go on. We need more love.
I think it was probably a week or two later, he sent me, it was a cracking day in Ireland when the sun shines, nowhere like it. He sent me a spanning shot of I think what he was looking at from his balcony. He was like, barbecue. So I went to that barbecue and more or less that was just it.
And you were the only one at the barbecue?
No. And at this time it was just me, and he barbecued up. He's a very good cook. I always say this to him.
So you went with the intention,
cooking.
You went knowing
we're going to hang
more
out,
than
but
friends.
I kind of knew it at that stage.
And you fancied each other, like there was a deep chemistry?
Do you know what? I always think when I was younger, I definitely went through periods in my life where I was quite indecisive and I wasn't as in touch with myself. I didn't really know, like, what do I want? Like, where do I want to go with life? When I met John, and then once we like actually did get together, I just knew it was it. Like, I've never ever questioned it. Okay, that's the end of all the sappy romantic
but
stuff.
I love
apologize,
that. Like, what age were you?
Oh, this is now where both of our memories are not great. I'm gonna say it was
because he's older than you by a bit.
Yes, and let's make sure everyone knows that John is 40. I'm not in that bracket.
No,
just
no,
yet.
He's a lot older than you. I always knew that.
So I'm 35. He's 40.
Yeah, so it's a bit like me and my husband. There's a 5-year.
Yeah. I think I was around 28 or so. When we met.
So you're young, but also you knew what you wanted and didn't want.
Yes, exactly.
And you just
100%.
said to me, I could be indecisive about relationships or things, and you'd come out of a bad relationship. You knew that he was really good for you, and 100%, you were good for him.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And I love for John, separately, as a friend, like I love that you're the person that because I think he is a romantic.
Yeah.
And was when I met him, maybe searching for something deep.
Yeah.
And he found it. And everyone is thrilled for you both. You're the sweetest couple. And bring out, which I think is the most.
That's not to say as well.
That is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, just to point that out. Like, we all go through, and especially since having children, you realise, like, there's so many new learnings and new ways that you have to figure out communication. But I think that's part of it. Like,
but I would say, even if you have the shittest times, or you don't, or you're great, you seem to, and I know, again, it's social media, but you seem to bring out a lot of good stuff in each other. You often find with partners, you're like, they just give out about each other, or they bring each other down, or there's a really bad space around them. I just see you thriving, and maybe it isn't always perfect. Life isn't, and you've had a really difficult pregnancy. You had a move that's really hard, adapting business models, COVID. But you bring out from the outside, there's a gorgeous feeling of like you both, they're in sync.
Delighted when
I think you bring out a lot of good in each other. You probably calm him a little, and he maybe brings even more juice out of you, because I think you're just such a gorgeous Zen person.
I think we just truly want the best for each other, and there's times where, like that, you might not be as aware of your own strengths, but sometimes your partner sees that. Isn't that important? Yeah, and like this, for example, John would say, go do the podcast. Let me push me to do these things. And sometimes I need that little push. I don't think he needs as much pushing, with certain things.
He just does stuff.
There for him then in other ways. So
I think you're obviously both very special. I find John, I would always say he saved my life. And he's one of the only people, 100% saved my life. When I didn't know I was mentally very unwell.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. And I think he was the first person that spoke to me about this, about personal training being so much more than the person that stands on the floor counting your 10, 20 reps. And I think there's that big misconception about it. And I remember when I actually was handing in my notice, I remember there being a general vibe of, what? She's on track here to climb the corporate ladder. She's going to become a personal trainer. It was nearly snubbed. But I, from spending time at Number 17, really saw the value and the impact that you can have on someone's life, big or small. Like, this wasn't just counting out their reps when they're doing a back squat, And I see that firsthand, especially with John. Like, he's had clients that go far, like back over 20 years. And I've heard the positive stories and the impact. And I know myself from working with clients firsthand. So it's so much more than that. And I think it always comes down to the approach that you take, and especially like this holistic approach, that it's not just the fitness. And I think it's also being aware of like, okay, this actually isn't in my area too. So there's certain times that you really do need to stay in your lane. But I think I've seen you really do build a strong connection and relationship with your clients, and you just become more than the personal trainer that they pop into for that 30 minute session on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you're in a space where you're both in a relationship. I mean, the engagement comes later, I presume.
Not a huge amount later. I think we were probably engaged within a year.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We engaged within a year, had made plans to obviously get married. COVID, I think we planned our wedding. I'm going to say, well, we planned to get married in Greece, so planned the whole thing. Obviously, COVID impacted that. Then we had a big move and we changed a kind of a whole way of doing things, and we moved countries. So there was lots of things, actually, when I look back at the time, you could think, oh my God, this is really difficult, business closing. But actually it led us on a very different route, and a route that I'm really thankful that we went on. You know?
I remember he said it was COVID, he was looking at the window, it was raining again, expenses, everything. And he said, oh, we're going to go to, he said it was great because you were like, sure. And like you went to Portugal. Yeah. And that has been, you know, watching from the outside that journey over there, you could see there was such benefits, the training he did, you guys playing paddle, your workouts, that was obviously very important. But you came home. Talk to me about that move.
We did. We came home. So we lived there for 4 years. I often say we were like roaming gypsies. Like we moved around quite a lot, which was lovely. I think honestly, in the 4 years we probably rented 11 different places. Like I became such a pro packer.
How did you find that though?
I think as I've gotten now, obviously with having a daughter and wanting more security and stability, I think sometimes like ultimately like you just want that safe space at home. And that was one of the biggest draws back to Ireland. In the beginning, like as much as John is spontaneous, I also love that, you know, I want experiences, I'd want adventure. I think we made the best out of a tricky situation during COVID. We were able to leave at the right time.
Yes.
And our life during COVID, for the first few, like when things would have been a lot more closed down here, we had a ball. Like we threw ourselves into learning how to surf, taking up a new skill. We trained outside. Daniela came over as well with Andy. They went on their own roller coaster, finding out she was pregnant. So, you know, it was brilliant. Eventually, like fast forward like 4 years, like I had my daughter Indy over there. There were so many things that started to like pull naturally back. Being back around family, close friends, work opportunities. And I think, you know, I'm not going to say like, I kind of hope, it's funny, the 22-year-old me, if you had said, do you want to like, where would you like to go traveling? I nearly felt like these decisions were bigger back then, funnily enough, than I do now.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is funny because you would think now at this stage in my life, you know, maybe, and it does get harder, of course, to pick up a move, but I would even consider again, okay, trying to have that lifestyle as part of our life, that sunshine, that ease that comes with living abroad. I'm definitely not opposed to it.
I think COVID has taught us a lot. I think we're all a little bit more, we're seeking the joy. I'm not saying happiness because it's just such a convoluted, like we're not always in a happy state, but the joy in life we all took for granted. The travel was taken from us, the family was taken from us, health, everything. And I wonder, in the reverse, in a rebellion of that, because I would say the same, like even changing jobs, whatever, I think we're more likely now, this generation, to go, enough is enough. Like, and that's great. I agree, in my 20s I would have been much more insecure and much more
very cautious
the job,
about it.
the relationship has to be perfect, what apartment am I, and I was very much box ticking.
It would have been the other way around.
No, I was box ticking a lot in my 20s, and I'm now a little bit like, what suits the family?
I think also like our generation, look, I know we want like the house and security, but at the same time I know that a lot of my friends were all seeking those experiences, and I want to also give those experiences to our kids, you know, so that definitely is like one of my biggest values. So having that, even thinking, okay, when this next little baby arrives, that we can go and do that, and you can pick up and move somewhere even for a few months and experience a different culture, a different way of life. Like that definitely excites me.
And restrictive living isn't for everyone. Like some people love that sense of, we know exactly what we're doing this month and we go on our 2-week holiday. I know I'm a bit like that. I need to be flexible or I get a little bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, agreed.
Having Indy, so you go to Portugal, you're engaged, you're planning a wedding, but the having of and the making of Indy, was it easy or hard or?
No, so that we cost something when we did. I'm again not a doctor, and sometimes I like to actually stay a little bit on the ignorant side and not throw myself too much into the detail when I'm going through something. But I had you know, like SIN 3. So essentially I think it was one stage away from, maybe there's 2 stages, but very close.
I had all of this at Christmas, yeah.
Okay.
SIN 1, SIN
So
2,
you
3,
understand.
and then you go
So
into your early stage
exactly.
cervical cancer.
So I went through a couple of years where we were managing that, and I would have been told at the time,
So
like,
you were in and out for smears, in and out for
I
like
had
getting
biopsies, I had the Lex procedure,
yeah.
and it's very time consuming in the
And
sense
it's
of
sore.
yeah, when you're also hoping to plan a family. At the time we were told, look, that wouldn't be safe for you to get pregnant
It's
now.
not when you're getting LETS treatments.
No, exactly. So we would have had to put it, I know that at that point I was definitely finding myself like wanting to start a family, having those conversations, but we put a lot on hold.
How did you find out you were having all these issues? Just a simple smear? This is why we
No,
say, ladies, get your smear.
It actually wasn't. So my smears were more or less up to date.
Okay.
I was having bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm bleeding outside.
They often say that that's a sign. So if
Yeah.
you're bleeding during intercourse or outside intercourse or any of that, you're having an
That's
issue.
exactly
Yeah.
it. So
So your smears are up to date? Okay, mine were not.
yeah. So they acted very quick on everything, but obviously you've got these long periods where you have to wait, so 6 months to check then again that everything's okay. So I was actually, when travel opened up, now I was doing some of it in Portugal, then I was flying home, so I had a really good doctor here, but we got past all that.
Okay.
But
it was delaying things for you mentally and
then
physically.
also when we actually did start to try, it didn't happen so quickly.
So you got the all clear.
Yeah.
You were then like, I'm not scared to try and get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then you're like trying to get pregnant. You're like, this should be great. We're
Yeah.
young, fit, healthy.
Yeah,
And it wasn't
and
happening.
it didn't happen so quickly. And
For a while?
if someone asked me, what is the time frame? I probably, like, it's hard to put it all together because we also then had a wedding. We did decide to get married in Portugal. We also decided to pause for a little while so that we could get married. So there were moments of stop starting, but it may have spanned like a year and a half to 2 years where we were in that space of trying. When I found out I was pregnant, I cannot tell you the joy that I felt. I felt like genuinely the luckiest person in the world. I've never spoken about that journey to getting pregnant, but I knew it would happen. So I stayed positive. But I do know that feeling when you're taking that pregnancy test every month and it's just not happening.
Yeah.
And also, look, I obviously was informed. I also know that sometimes it just doesn't, it's not as quick. And you'll hear, you know, different podcasts I was listening.
Thankfully, more people are talking about it. Thankfully, or you don't think you're weird if something's...
No, so I was really aware of that, and there was also times where you need to take like breaks for your own mental space too.
Totally.
Where you just say, let's
the
have
trying
fun.
with that contraceptive thing, you act like it's chill, but actually you're still trying, right? So you're pretending, we're just having sex for fun. Don't be ridiculous. When you're trying to conceive, no matter how good your relationship is, your sexual relationship, you are still in the back of your mind as a woman, I think in particular, thinking about your pregnancy test and your period coming, and it feels almost like a failure when your period comes. It's hard.
It's really
Did you find
difficult.
it tiring, or were you quite like strong?
I would have, I would be let down definitely, and then I would have get myself back into that positive headspace. And generally day to day, I am quite positive. As I said, I knew it was going to happen, and it was just timing. I'd had like bloods done and things like that too, and I was like starting that whole process of like checking was everything okay. But as I said, when I found out I was pregnant, it really was. It felt like the biggest blessing in the world, and I'll never.
So what
forget
happened?
that.
You felt a bit funky, or you missed a period,
listen, I was at the stage that I was testing like luteinizing hormone. I was like, I just remember I was like, things feel different. Like boobs were sore. I felt like we had, wrong frame. I was like, we had nailed it.
Nice.
But listen.
Different podcast, that's our only
But listen, I felt like we got the timings
funny.
right, all of that stuff that
You hadn't missed a trick,
Yeah, and I didn't want to get too excited, but I could see like faint lines appearing. And
the faint lines are a killer, aren't they? Because you're like, stay strong, stay strong.
I remember where I was at the time finding out, and it was just
Was John with you, or was he away?
Yeah, he was with me, and I just knew. I was like, this is it.
It's a relief, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is the biggest relief. And I felt so happy throughout my whole pregnancy. I had a unbelievable pregnancy until I didn't, until things got a little bit more challenging. But throughout the pregnancy, I felt amazing, and I really was holding on to this feeling of just being so grateful to.
Did you always want to have a baba?
Yeah,
kids?
and I knew very early with John that like he was the person that I wanted. Yeah, definitely.
What was the challenge towards the end of Indy?
So John had just competed in the Amazon. He did one of these challenges. This is where we are very different. I've no want to ever do something like that. No. But he came back from the Amazon, and I think we were going in for a usual scan. I think I was around 28 weeks.
Okay, so quite far along.
Yeah, and we were just gunning to get a bit of time together. Before this next chapter started, I had planned out a trip to go to Madeira, one of the islands off Portugal. And it was only that I had said that to her that I would have obviously needed a fit to fly, that they did a little bit more of a deeper check. And they saw that my cervix was essentially shortening, but it had shortened like quite quickly.
As if you're about to give birth kind of thing.
Essentially, it was shortening and it was opening. They hooked me up to an ECG. I was having contractions, which I didn't feel.
Wow, at 28 weeks.
Yeah, 28 weeks. So I went home. We spent a lot of time going in and out of hospital. At 29, what happened then that day, and tell me I'll speed this up if I have to, because it does get quite long. But we went home and she said, look, I could see on the doctor's face how important this was, that we needed to take this seriously. She said, you need to go home. You're going to go on bed rest for 3 days. Wow. You're going to come back in. We're going to monitor your cervix. Mm-hmm. So again, being optimistic, I was like, we are going to smash this bed rest out of the park. Yeah. I'm going to go home. I'm going to put the feet up. I was obviously a little bit taken back because the difference was I felt so good. Okay. I felt really, really well.
You were working out. You were still running your businesses. You could see throughout your pregnancy you were super healthy and fit.
I felt really, really good. So went home, came back in a couple of days later, and it had shortened by a few millimeters. So I don't, look, everyone's cervix, I'm sure it's different lengths. I imagine it should have been around the 3.5 to 4 millimeters, and it had shortened. It was down at like 1.9 or something. So, or that was centimeters. So they were quite concerned. Again, I was having contractions, and this is when they did steroids injections for Indy, so that if she was born, that she would have a bit more support for her lungs. They gave me a lot of medication to slow down the contractions. Wow. And then I went home and I went on bed rest for 4 to 5 weeks. And when I say bed rest, when I say bed rest,
you went on bed. I say that is absolutely horrendous for you.
I think it was a massive shift to put myself into the headspace of, okay, you feel really good. I know I can walk from here to here without any pain.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
But then for someone to say like, no, you need to lie down. I found it very hard to go from.
Mentally really hard.
Yeah, and also to be very independent and all of a sudden have to be extremely dependent on someone else. And John's younger brother, Lima, was with us at the time as well. And I remember like the two lads were amazing. They were like dropping in cups of tea.
But you were literally lying.
I was lying down, legs up. You know, and this was like hard. Straight away.
You want to get ready for your baby. You want to continue working out. You want to even walk with your husband.
As I said to you at the start of this podcast, I do things very last minute to the point where it probably worries a lot of people. I had no intention of getting baby clothes, anything ready until I was like closer to the point. So
you weren't organised.
Oh, we were not organised.
Yeah. And like again,
this is where again, like the lads, they were so good. They built like all the baby furniture. They went and like John put my hospital
together. So there was a fear
together.
She would be preemie. There was a fear.
Exactly. So this
were you worried? Like, you know, you can say, oh, it was frustrating being on bed rest and lying at home, but mentally, were you starting to worry about this baby?
I think.
Or did you trust the powers that be?
John becomes more of a realist, and I stay very optimistic. I kept thinking, this is all going to be okay. I kept feeling like we're going to get this baby closer to full term. And it was when I would talk to my doctor and I would see the seriousness in her face that I knew that I had to obviously take this. And we were like, I was literally lying up every day. Like I didn't move from the bed. But I realized, you know what, I think I realize more now, and I'll like explain about this pregnancy. It is also, I do also have a risk of it being premature, this baby being born premature. Knowing now what I know, it's like I really want to do everything in my power that I can to ensure this pregnancy is built and this baby, that we get him here safely and well, and that it's a successful pregnancy. Because I've seen the side of ICU and I've seen the struggles and the heartache that comes with that. But we stayed on bed rest for 4 to 5 weeks, and I had so much support. I think John and Lean kept me in the most positive headspace as they could. I'm not going to lie, like I had days that I didn't feel positive, and I had days that the lack of movement when I'm so used to being active, moving, even just something simple as walking your dogs and going out and feeling the sunshine on your face. Important. And I found that the biggest adjustment, but I would feel selfish when those thoughts would come in.
Sure, you'd be like, I have to do this for the baby. Yeah,
exactly. So I'd have days like that where I was extremely positive. I would have days where I felt selfish and wanting to do something for myself. But like, honestly, the guys would come in, they kept spirits going. So, and I would try and take joy out of little things, where I would do a big online haul for Indy's clothes and I would fold them up and just focus on things like that.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, after that, I think I was 33 in a few days, and my waters broke. Wow. And it kind of, it was more of like a leak that I kind of said, okay, something's not right. It was 2 a.m. John was like, let's get in. You know, it's funny, I look back now and I think, oh, let's just wait a minute. Maybe everything's okay.
No.
So we went in, my waters had broke. 7
weeks is still pretty early. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's not, people say 36 weeks. 33 weeks is very early, right?
Yeah, really early. So she stayed in hospital for a few days.
You had her?
Yeah, we literally had her.
So you did have her when you're?
Yeah.
Wow,
so we went in on the Friday. It was like 2 a.m.
Okay, wow.
The whole next day, Saturday, I can't even tell you the amount of things they were doing. I was hooked up. They were monitoring. I was having contractions.
Were you scared?
I felt scared. I didn't feel ready to have my baby. I think there's a natural thing that comes with like going through a full pregnancy, and like actually allowing your body to get like, I talk to friends
and then you're like, right, I'm done, I'm cooked, get it out of here, right, the bedroom's ready, I'm ready. I remember at 40 weeks I had both of them at 40 weeks on the day they're due. Now I don't believe that there's an exacting, so I'm sure it was 40 and 1 or 39 but they both came on their due dates. Again, it's all kind of horseshit. But I do remember hearing women who were 42 weeks or 38 or 30 and being dying to have it or not. I was done and ready and finished work and house was done, and the bag would have always been the last minute because Jason and I are a bit of a disaster, but like I was fully blown ready to get my baby out. So I can only imagine that feeling of nearly 2 months prior when you're really not yet there,
like I see the side where someone is uncomfortable and they're like, let's get the show on the road.
And you're in pissy mode then, you're just like angry with everyone
and you're eager to meet your baby, you've got that excitement. I was really hoping, so one thing I didn't say also, they had put this like ring in essentially, which is like to support your cervix, and because that was doing its job, my cervix actually wasn't opening, but my amniotic fluid was leaking, so it wasn't
dilating, but it was
exactly
God.
So they were very concerned about infection being caused to the baby. And then the next thing that happened, I was having contractions, but again, I wasn't feeling any of the contractions. And as I was having these contractions, the only way I can describe it, like when you see them on the ECG, let's say they were hitting like a 20-30%, but Indy's heart rate started to drop, even though it wasn't like a powerful contraction. So what they were trying to explain was, can you imagine that you were having a contraction that's hitting that like 80-90%? Her heart rate, like they were getting very worried about her state. And when that happens, you just think, you know what, this is like, everything goes out the window. I think I had always remained, like from the beginning, it's lovely to have a plan, but I also understand plans go out the window, and I'm okay with that.
You're like, take this baby out.
So it happened really quickly. It was Sunday morning at that stage. I'd been in, so from Friday, it was now through to Sunday. I was hoping that maybe my cervix would open and maybe we could get her here more naturally. At this stage, there was a lot more worry and panic around the situation, and I went down for C-section. I remember calling John, just saying, like, and he was in with me so much, but I think he'd gone home to have a shower, and I remember texting him and saying, like, I need you here, and this is 11 a.m. By 3 p.m. Indy was born. Wow. So I think there was even an adjustment for me mentally.
I just, any of my friends who've had emergency C-sections or traumatic births or thought it was going to be like this, and they'd yoga and hypno breathing, please let's as women say mentally there's an adjustment to how your birth goes. If we don't say that, we're doing a disservice. There's such my birth with my first was completely textbook. She came very quickly, very aggressively, like it was painful, and I'd no pain relief, but it was what it should have been, and it was grand, right? And my second was just so hard that I remember being like, why is this not, like, I've been through so much to have Simone, why? we need to be honest and like stop martyring ourselves to the cause. Like we bring a baby in, so it's all about the baby. Like that's mentally a huge adjustment for your little head. You've just been on bed rest, you've had other stuff, you've had almost a year and a half to make this child, and then she comes early and it's going to be taken out really quickly on a Sunday. It's hard, Adrienne. Like
I just like, so Indy was born, and because they were obviously very concerned about her health, she was taken away. So I think that was one of the hardest things for me. And honestly, like Rebecca, if I was talking to you a year ago, I probably still wouldn't be able to have this conversation. I'm in such a different headspace with everything now that I can have this time. And I feel so much stronger. But God, like trying to talk about it to anyone, I still felt like I was just holding on to so much upset around her birth.
They took her away.
They took her away, yeah. So and look, I don't know if things would have been done differently if it was in Ireland, if it was in Portugal. All I can say is, like, at the end of the day, like, the care we were given, and I know the care that my daughter was given for the time that she spent in ICU was incredible. And I will always remember, like, I get shivers thinking about it. I will remember each one of the nurses, doctors, midwife, cleaning assistants. I remember every one of their faces, and I'll never forget them, because they became, I like lived in the hospital for 4.5, 5 weeks. Like, I stayed in a room beside Indy. I spent, like, it got to the point where John, and he might have said this, but like, he brought me in a kettle. He was bringing food. I was like, I was moved in, being as close to my baby as I could.
Were you grateful that she was healthy and going to make it, but she was little and you had to really... So was there a lot of gratitude still running through your veins and it was all good? Or were you in a very low space in those 5 weeks?
When she was just born and I then got taken back to my room, I was in a really confusing place. I definitely was given a lot of drugs. I wasn't fully aware of everything. Like, I was aware, but I just remember, even like with the epidural, it being hours and hours later, that actually I was starting to get feeling. I don't like describing her birth like this, because obviously her birth was such a, you know, there was so much happiness, but there was so much sadness, and they're very strange feelings to have mixed together. Not being able to, being up in a room and you're recovering, but not knowing how your baby is a really strange feeling, and being torn to say, I'm like, John, you need to go down to her, because I physically couldn't get up and walk. And it was until the next day then that I actually got to see her. So it was strange sitting there looking at each other, but I had no baby to hold. So I was very eager to get to her the next day, and John was pushing it, because they weren't coming in to like get me up, get me walking, and he was like, she needs to meet her child. So once I did, we went down, and that was also quite shocking, because you see her in the incubator, and
she was tiny, John said?
She was very, very small, and like, she was like 3 pounds something. I think she got up to 4, and then obviously, you know, they lose a little bit of weight when they're born. So she was just so small, and there were so many wires. And I think there are things that, you know, one thing I want to cover off is, I had friends that were born, their babies were due around the same time. I always felt very like an obligation that perhaps I shouldn't share what was going on. And I, in some ways, I still feel that, because at the time, maybe things were wrapped up in a lot of sadness and fear, and we didn't really know what was coming. And I really, like, you know, you hear positive birth stories, negative birth stories, or just challenging stories. I really didn't want to put this out to anyone else, you know?
Scare anyone?
Yeah.
Wow, that's very...
And I just
selfless.
remember, but no, and don't get me wrong, there was friends, like I had a couple of friends that they were my go-to, and I was chatting to. And I had other friends that I felt like, oh God, I want to protect them from this, because this isn't this is
the kind typical. Of shit and sad and a bit depressing, and my child looks really scary, and like she's ill, even though I'm sure she's going to be okay, and I don't know, and I'm still, really low, and I'm on tons of meds.
And I think I still feel that need though a little bit, because I mean, so many of my friends are having babies, you know, it just, I don't want my story to impact, you know, but then I also realise that this is part of life story too.
But this is your story. It does not mean it's everyone's. It's actually quite rare. I mean, it's also important to say that every baby is for that long up in ICU. Like, it is your story to tell. And I think...
But listen, we got to hold her. And when I held her, I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever.
I was going to say about attachment, did you find it hard to bond? No.
No, because I literally sat in that blue chair to the point that I, like, probably... my arse now was flat afterwards, because I literally didn't leave her side. And... you know, one thing I look back at, and it's actually a learning with this baby, they really encouraged skin to skin, and they encouraged it with John. So we would literally do shifts. So he'd be in, I'd be in out, in out. And I remember just thinking, like, she is thriving because of this. Like, one thing with ICU that I'll always...
Isn't that so beautiful?
But she was. Like, she was...
babies who don't have that, like, of course she was. These are her bobos, and they're holding her.
These are the things that you need. And it's such a learning for this baby, even though life is going to be busy and I'm chasing a toddler around, like, I'm going to do that as much as I can, because Indy had 5 weeks of that, you know, where she was on my skin, and of course times where she had to be in the incubator and so on. But there was a lot of take-homes from being in ICU. And I think one thing that I've learned, and I think for any parents that do go through something similar, you have to celebrate everything. And it could be something little. It could be your baby's feeding tube getting removed. It could be that they managed to go to the toilet by themselves. I don't know. It could, whatever, how big, like they were big wins, and they were wins that, like, myself and John would celebrate. Like, we would just, because you could see it felt like that. Yeah, you'd get to that point where you knew she was getting closer to coming home, and that's just the feeling that I wanted. Like, look, we see those pictures of, like, the husband carrying the baby out of the hospital.
That's
and
hard for some people.
I'm like, that's I just wanted that feeling. But we got to bring Indy home after 2.5 weeks, and then we had a very bad scare with her.
John told us.
So yeah, and I think that we were rushed back in by ambulance, and I think that was probably more of the challenging piece that I found around her birth, because we were in a bit of a standstill and things weren't progressing. Whereas that first chunk in ICU, everything was about her coming home and getting her stronger. Yeah. Whereas this felt like you feel very helpless, and you see your baby going through a lot of discomfort, and they're so small, and there's nothing you can do apart from trying to be her voice. And that's something that I really leaned into when there were things that were happening that I just felt in my gut, like, no, that's not working. We need to stop and change the approach. And I was lucky that actually doctors were open to hearing that from me, and they gave a lot of support. But this story has a happy ending, because 5 weeks later she did come home, and we've never looked back. And she's strong and bossy and thriving and sassy.
How's her health?
Yeah, her health is really, really good. We've always had, they obviously pay close attention to her premature babies. Yeah. She has a small hole in her heart, but it's nothing of concern. And they do pay a lot of attention to premature babies, where they do, like, very regular milestone checks. So
I met her in Avoca 2 weeks ago. She's
and you're gorgeous girls,
and open-hearted and full of inquisitive. Like, her eyes were like, and her daddy's chatting away, and it's remarkable to hear that story of you seeing a 3-pounder tubed up to the gills in a foreign hospital, and the fear. And
but I think, look,
beautiful.
You learn how, and people would
Simone
say to me
was
at the
born
time,
tiny, full term, tiny. Amazing. I remember being like, what, my baby? And I remember thinking, is it because I didn't eat properly, because I was so stressed throughout her pregnancy? But she was so tiny that I was like, something's wrong. And look at her. You saw her. She's up for a rocker,
amazing.
putting stuff in the trolley. She's not allowed to put in the trolley.
We were trapped in the toy section
in Avoca.
But I think you learn that, first of all, we as people, we can be so resilient, and we can, like, ride through the stress.
Sucks.
Yeah, it does.
When people are like, oh, you're so strong, you're like, it sucks, I hate being this with it. But I think you deal with it
at some point, okay? Like, I definitely dealt with it later down the line.
A hangover.
Definitely. But and you also see, like, little babies. People kept saying it to me, and I wasn't sure. But you actually see how strong babies are. And this would go for babies that, like, there were other kids or babies in ICU, and you would see decline, and then, like, this, all of a sudden, like, the next day or 2 days later, they were like progressing and going home with their parents. So
was it so you you obviously have a hangover from this, even though I know that you're strong and you're dealing with things. Was there the fear when you and John are like, well, let's have another kid? Were you a bit like, Jesus, John, hold your knickers there?
There definitely was a period of time where I thought, God, am I going to be strong enough to go through this again? And is my body capable of going through this? Obviously, they could never shed total clarity on why this happened. Subsequently now, from my talking to, like, my consultants here, my cervix is short. They have put measures in place to handle that. And then I also have, to throw something else in there, a heart-shaped uterus. Who knew?
Of course she does.
There we go.
Of course she does. So she's beautiful, and her vagina is heart-shaped. Most of us have just a round shape. I've heard of this though. I have heard of
this. And then the fact then that you had a premature baby already.
But yeah, you got pregnant easily enough with this baby. Which is kind of hard with the heart shaped. Is it not more challenging, or am I completely off?
I honestly don't know.
I have a friend who, she said it can be harder. So amazing.
This happened very, very quickly, and again, we felt extremely grateful because we know the side that
of course,
can take
of
longer.
the waiting and the
So while there's definitely part of me thinking, oh dear Jesus, this is going to be chaotic, I'm also extremely grateful.
But you also had surgery recently, and you're super chill about that. Like
no. I wasn't super chill at all. But I will say, and I actually spoke to John about this the other day. I've realised that I'm such have a practical way of doing things. So I had a lot of fear, like going back in for the surgery based on previous, like even just getting to get an epidural. Well, it's called a spinal.
Yeah.
So to get that again, and I remembered having so much fear around it because when I was having the C-section, I didn't mention this to you previously, but it did, like I went into shock during it. Like it was quite traumatic. So I've held on to that, and I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to go in here, have the surgery? Also, you're very aware of taking drugs because you have a baby and everything's going to be passed to this new little baba. But
body
actually,
keeps the score, as we know.
Yeah, and actually going in this time, it was a very different situation. I was very prepped. It wasn't an emergency. The doctors were so kind. They filled me in, like they just kept me in the loop with everything. I've had surgery. Essentially, again, they've put a stitch into my cervix, which again provides more support
to retain this
exactly.
and keep it for as long.
So we're hoping that this, paired with a few other measures, will get this baba as close to full term. And yeah, I feel very good about everything now. So, and the surgery, as I said, it was actually a good thing for me to go back in and go through being in theatre again. Like I feel like I got to revisit something that I had a lot of fear around.
I think it's important.
Yeah, and even just getting the spinal, I wasn't, like I remember before getting the epidural, my body was already shaking. Like, I couldn't control the shakes. Whereas this time I felt calmer. And now I do feel whatever comes, however this baby decides to come into the world or whatever, whether it's a natural or a C-section, I do feel like I am so capable, like I'm able to take what comes. Whereas actually, if I didn't have that surgery a few weeks ago, I think I would have had a lot of fear around it. So it's really a good thing that I had to go through that again,
I think you're remarkable. I think
it sounds like I'm being strong.
No, but I think you are remarkable.
John has had all the tears.
I've been through LETS treatments, and I've been through miscarriages and ectopic, and I've been through stuff. But to hear you say you've been through all of that, then you're trying to conceive, then you have this really traumatic birth, then your baby is literally rushed into hospital. When John told the story, I was bawling. I was like, oh, as a mother. And then you go through this again, a surgery, you're heading into another. I think you are remarkable. And I think that's also your resilience. You can see you're a calm soul. And even though you're going through stuff, I love the practicality of saying to John, this is how I feel this way. And you help each other along. And I think you're going to have the most beautiful family. Like, it's honestly, why is your, we spoke briefly about maybe fitness wasn't the core thing in your family, but it's always been your core value, right? What is so important about your health and well-being, and how do you practice that every day, pregnant or not pregnant, Adrienne? Because we look at you and like, you are so brilliant at what you do. I'm like, oh my God, she makes it look so easy.
Very, very kind. I think fitness, wellness changes like depending on what area of your life that you're in, what stage you're in. And, I remember reasons that I started, first of all, when I was younger, I loved exercise. Like I loved hockey, I loved running. I probably had so much energy that my mum was like, we need to put her into every single sport. And then from a wellness side and wanting to learn more about wellness, I think I've seen family members or, even just health concerns crop up. And I've thought, oh, that's not the way I want to live my life. Like I want to have a healthy life where when Indy has grandkids, I want to be fit and well, that I can get down on the floor, or not grandkids, when she has her own children. I have
she's
grandkids.
Gonna live till 305.
Oh my God, imagine.
She's going to be living forever.
But I want to be
able to get on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's a huge motivator. Like I really do. I think it's massive. Now, because I have the stitch, it's called the cerclage, I have that. All the recommendations are to stop, like I suppose, some forms of movement, and it's quite limiting. So I will say, again, it did put me back into a headspace of, okay, I found out this around like 12 weeks that I would need to have it done. I thought, okay, movement is such a big part of my life, and I use it very much mentally. Like it just puts me into a positive space, and it doesn't really matter what type of movement I'm doing. But like, I love running, I love strength training, I love yoga, Pilates, love it all. But now there's actually, it's very limited as to what I can do. So I'm trying to just, again, shift the headspace. I'm doing a little bit more reading, doing a little bit more cooking. Don't love cooking. But I'm just trying to think, okay, this is really a moment in time.
It's temporary, right?
It's so temporary,
like,
yeah.
Before, when you said it, like, that must have been horrible. For a woman who's literally in the fitness industry, like, we look at you, the Flexi-App with Vogue, and you do workouts. I'm like, she's fucking brilliant at these. Like, she's making this tangible. You know, we all got your flow state mats because they were gorgeous, and when you're looking like a ride on a mat, we're all going to buy it, Adrienne. Like, this is business. Okay, you are brilliant. You play paddle with John. Like, you are a fitness family. When you went into that first bed rest thing, I'm sure it was like, oh my god. You are now like, this is temporary.
This is temporary. And when
this
you
is
zoom
like
out
sitting
at
in the
your
seat
whole
in
life,
ICU. This is temporary.
So when I zoom out and I look back at this, I'm like, you've 4 more months now where like your baby, you'll get him here safe and sound. And then I just have 2026
for the rest of your life. Like,
literally, I have 2026. You're my year. I'll take on whatever I want to do then. You know, have time to recover, rest.
It's probably a huge mental. It's an agility. Like, it's much like running a marathon. You're probably retraining everything in your brain to just stay in a different zone, I guess.
And there's so many other things I can do. And there are little things. Look, like there's certain banded exercises. Like, you obviously still want to move to feel good day to day. I'm out walking the dogs lots.
Okay.
And yeah, it's. And I think wellness comes into so many other areas too. Like, and I see it even so much with my daughter now. As I said, like, I don't love cooking, but I also realize I want her to have variety. I want her to have like nutritious food. So I'm trying to push myself.
Do you look
into
at John
that
and
space.
hate him when he's heading off for a game of paddle?
Do you know what? I will say,
I'm very resentful when Jason's got us somewhere and I'm putting the kids to bed. I'm like, I just want to go move, like,
Do
movement.
you know what though? He's not going off to play golf, and I'm like, if he was gone for 5 or 6, that's a whole other conversation.
If we were golf widows, we'd be in a different marriage.
And he is someone that really needs to move as well.
Yeah, he does.
So I'm like, go get that energy out of your system.
2 hours, and
and everyone needs it.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
Yeah.
What are the future plans? So I feel like you guys never stop, but I think having this chat with you opens you up even to a newer audience again, because we see you as like, again, well-being coach, fitness, and talk to Adrienne if you're looking for any guidance or help in this, because again, John was the holistic king of fitness. It wasn't about getting abs. It was like, what are you trying to achieve in your life, Bex?
Yeah.
Oh, like perfect, but no, Rebecca. Because actually that is just this sideshow. What's going on? So Adrienne does this as well, and this is very much like reach out. But what is the aim and hope and dream? I know you're saying you're here now at the moment, and who knows what's to come with that.
Yeah.
But what would you love to talk to people about or help people with? Or
yeah, I suppose since we've come home, and I hadn't actually taken in-person clients back on the gym floor, and I've had such, I suppose I've just remembered, I'm back in out training clients number 17. And I remember just how much.
Do you love it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Men and women?
I'm actually more so just training women at the moment, but I have previously. But I think it's an area. So I've just, I've studied obviously pre and postnatal training. It's an area that I will, more so I was doing it for myself to learn a little bit more and get more information. It's an area that I think I would like to uncover a bit more. But I am back in the gym, and at the moment I'm loving doing that. It's definitely, I've realised the passion. It's funny when we stepped away and we travelled to Portugal, the flexibility of being able to work online is amazing. We obviously launched the Flexi-App. We love creating programs, working with, like, we've members there, which I think as well, when you become a mum and you only have that 20 minutes, you want something that's accessible but yet effective. Really enjoy working on that. And I suppose, someone said to me recently, perhaps this little baby is going to ground you. It's your anchor here in Ireland.
Isn't it funny?
And now I do think, I'm like, okay, it is time just to get a bit like feet on the ground, get back into doing what you love. I will take definitely a bit of time when he's born. And just that's also probably going to give me a new perspective on life as well. So we shall see.
It constantly evolves and changes. Your first baby changes you like insurmountably. Gia changed me. But then Simone changed me again. And now as they grow up, they change you.
Yeah.
It's the parenting thing, and much like what we're trying to do in this podcast, every single stage. Like this morning, Simone had a meltdown about something, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, and when I heard strawberry, I was like, it's the strawberry shorts, because she couldn't speak. She was so upset.
Yes.
And I was so frazzled to try and get to work. And then she goes, the strawberry shorts. And when she said, yeah, and I just saw that this is what she was devastated about when we get them on. And I thought, oh my God, that went on because the strawberry shorts were the wrong shirt. And I kind of put the sun cream on her face, put her in the car, and she looked at me, she goes, sorry, Mama. I was like, no, it's okay. You don't have to be sorry. Mama. It's okay. Yeah. You know, she could see I was stressed and that's awful. But I was like, it's okay, Simone. And she said, I just really I was like, it's okay. It's okay. And I just sat in the car and we chilled and we spoke. And I thought, there's another challenge.
God, it teaches you so much, doesn't it?
And about yourself. It is a mirror. Forget about them for a sec. It teaches you so much about yourself. Why am I stressed about something minor? Why am I in a rush? Why am I not understanding their need? Scary.
Listen, I don't even think I'm at that point though of parenting. I think we're still at that stage where we're
survival
engaging, playing. You know, it's,
no.
Yeah. So listen, I'll circle back and come and get some advice.
Circle back. Especially girls, and I know that you have a little. I think girls is a whole different challenge, and I hear that from my friends. I mean, let's be honest about gendered. It is a thing. Like, it's tricky. Both are different. Yeah. Anyway, so beautiful to have you on and to meet you properly. And best of luck with this last phase. I'm sure we'll hear all about it. And if you just want to ogle their wedding photos alone, just look at Adrienne Murphy's Instagram.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Sponsored by Aptimal Follow On. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research. Aptimal Follow On milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. If you like this episode, will you please rate it, subscribe and share it with others? This helps me get the guests that you want to hear.